5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everybody. How you doing? My name's Charlie O'Connor, and welcome to PHLY Flyers, presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app and use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. As you probably can tell, our director of fun and games, Bill Matz, is not here today. He is ill.
He's a sick boy.
If you were paying attention to our shows the last couple of days, I think it was abundantly clear that he was battling something. He tried to say it was just losing his voice after the Eagles winning the Super Bowl. It appears he became sick.
That's
so
a shame.
He's not here today, but I do have the flyby herself, the owner and operator of BroadStreetHockey.com, Kelly Hinkle, with me.
Charles, hello.
Hello.
How's it going?
Doing well.
Have you recovered from your celebrations on Sunday?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, I think so.
That's good.
I actually, for whatever reason, it didn't hit me physically until Tuesday.
Okay.
Because I woke up on Tuesday morning and I just felt incredibly bloated and sick feeling.
That's fun.
I don't know if that was because I had pasta on Monday night or if that was because it was residual from the celebration on Sunday night. Unclear.
Yeah.
But Tuesday was actually my worst day. Monday, I felt pretty good.
That's good.
So unsure if that's related, but
I hope you enjoyed yourself.
feeling better today and
Excellent.
preparing for the parade on Friday. But in addition to the parade coming up, we also have a form of hockey
There is hockey.
back tonight. And there will be at least one, actually exactly one,
a singular Flyer.
Philadelphia Flyer
Yes.
playing hockey in a game tonight. It is indeed the Four Nations face-off. Is what they call it. Face-off with a little dash in between face and off.
Is that normally how you do face-off?
It's not how I do it.
That's not how I do it either.
I know.
Maybe we're wrong. Do we count John Tortorella as a Flyers playing in this tournament? Probably not, right?
Well, he's definitely participating.
He's doing it.
He's doing the tournament.
Yeah,
That said,
he's there.
the U.S. does not play tonight because tonight,
Oh, that's right.
yes, tonight is
Canada.
just Canada versus
Canada,
Sweden. The
Sweden,
U.S. has their
correct.
first game tomorrow night.
Okay.
Now, technically, Kelly, there are 3 Philadelphia Flyers on the team rosters
Yes.
in this game. However, we have gotten confirmation, number one, that Sam Ersson is not going to be playing, which we expect.
Not
We always
surprising,
assumed he was going into this tournament as the extra goalie.
Mhm.
Travis Konecny is playing, but Travis Sanheim is going to be a healthy scratch along with Sam Bennett. So we're going to get into that in a few, talk about Konecny, talk about Sanheim. Ersson, I don't think we have to talk too much about him. He knows exactly what he signed up
That
for.
makes perfect sense.
Exactly. He's just getting some time to hang out in Montreal and Boston. It's fine. He's putting his time in to be part of the national team in the future. But before we get into the individual players, Kelly, I want to ask you about this tournament because I feel like there's been a lot of discourse online and honestly probably in real life too among hockey fans as to your relative levels of excitement for this Four Nations face-off tournament, pseudo-Olympic, pseudo-World Cup of Hockey type thing. Are you excited? Are you one of those people who doesn't think it's that big of a deal? Where are you at?
So I can't say I'm super excited. Okay, acknowledging that like all sports tournaments are made up and none of them actually mean anything. Like technically they've all just been invented out of thin air and none of them really means anything.
Some of them have like hundreds of years
That's
of
the
history.
thing. That's the thing. So this is just like a thing they made up 10 seconds ago. And like, what are you winning? Like you're winning the Four Nations. Like
They created a trophy.
I know.
Apparently.
It's just like for me, I just like
also
can't,
made that out of nothing though.
I can't bring my I don't know. I'm just like there's no excitement. That said, the first like Canada USA game, if I watch it, probably gonna get pretty hype. Like let's be serious. Once you get into the hockey, it's usually hard to, avoid getting excited about the hockey. But like heading into it and in advance of it, I don't care. I don't care who wins, really.
Okay.
It doesn't mean anything. I hope they all have fun out there and nobody gets hurt. That's about where I am.
I think I'm kind of with you. I think this game will be fun because obviously Canada is one of the tournament favorites. They have a loaded roster, Crosby, McKinnon, everybody. And Sweden is one of those teams where I'm not quite sure how seriously they're taking this. I read some interviews with guys like Victor Hedman. It seems like they are acting like they're taking it very seriously. But as I said on the show earlier this week, I've gotten the sense that US and Canada are the ones that are really, really into this.
Yeah.
And Finland has like half the roster injured, and Sweden is more or less like, well, this is a tune-up for the Olympics next year. I'm intrigued to see how Sweden handles this game, because if they go out there and blow Canada's doors off, number one, it'd be very funny because Canada will have a complete meltdown as a country. And that would be amusing. But also it would show that Sweden is taking this tournament seriously. Whereas if Sweden goes out there and gets beat 4-1, and you're like, okay, the only games in this tournament that matter are going to be US-Canada. Right. So I'm intrigued about that. I think I'm probably a bit more excited than you are, but I'm mostly excited for US-Canada. Yeah. That's kind of where I'm at, because for me, what's exciting about this tournament is it's been more than a few years where USA hockey fans have looked at the relative strengths of the rosters and said, if there's a best-on-best tournament, the U.S. actually could win it this time. And we haven't gotten a best-on-best tournament in quite a while. Yeah. Now we're getting one. I agree it's not as cool as the Olympics. It's really not even as cool as the World Cup of Hockey, because at least that has some history. Right. But if the U.S. goes out in this tournament and just rolls over everybody, beats Canada relatively convincingly or even close, whatever, it will make a strong case that in the Olympics, the U.S. should be viewed as the favorite. And that would be exciting for me as a USA hockey fan, both because I naturally root for Team USA and also because I find it very funny when Canada feels like Team USA is catching them. They get so angry, and that's fun.
So it is, I mean, thinking about it as like a run-up to the Olympics is kind of interesting, especially for Team Canada, because like I feel like they've had a lot of issues. Like Team Canada, umbrella-wise, this is the same organization that puts together like their World Juniors roster, right?
I don't know what the degree of overlap is. I mean, Hockey Canada is a large organization, so I'm sure there are people in positions of authority that have input, but I don't necessarily think it's like the exact same people who screwed up the World Juniors as badly as Canada
did. Because that's what I was wondering. Like, if Hockey Canada has like this weird kind of like personal ethos that led to that juniors team that was not the best that they could have put together.
It's an interesting point because while it's definitely not the same people. Like Doug Armstrong, and they pretty much, they hire a GM and the GM picks the team. Now, obviously, then that GM is going to have people advising him. I'm sure there's some politics there with the higher ups in Hockey Canada. Yeah. But generally speaking, they let the GMs make the choices. However, the ethos that convinces Hockey Canada people specifically to go with the more, it all goes back to the Miracle on Ice. Yeah. To that mythologized idea of, I don't want the best players, I want the right players.
The right players, yeah.
And while that worked very, very well for Herb Brooks, I do think that a lot of hockey executives can take it too far and think, well, we're not going to get this really good player because he just doesn't fit. Like, nah, maybe take all your really good players and just figure it out from there. Because if you have a good enough coach, you would think that coach and his assistants can find ways to deploy the best players possible. And I guess this maybe is a decent segue going into the Flyers players in this tournament. So I want to start with Travis Konecny. He is the only Flyers player who is going to be playing in this game, even though Travis Sanheim is on the roster, and so is Sam Ersson. Rasmus Ristolainen was supposed to be on Team Finland. He is out due to injury.
Bummer for him.
And then John Tortorella will be behind the bench. Travis Konecny will be playing in this game. My understanding, based on what I've read, is that he's gotten time on Power Play 2 in practice. So it seems like he's going to have, at least maybe not a centerpiece role, but he's going to get some opportunities. He's going to get some opportunities to impress. Travis Konecny this year, 61 points in 57 games. He's currently on pace for 32 goals and 88 points. How important do you think this tournament is for him in terms of getting more publicity and more respect nationally, both from media people and just from players overall? Because to me, it seems like this is a real opportunity for Konecny. Yeah. He's played on a team with the Flyers who, yes, he's putting up good numbers, but they're not that great of a team. They haven't been in the playoffs since 2020. And they're not a team that, while they get on national TV a fair amount, they're not a team that you think of as a premier club right now.
Right.
So he probably isn't getting the hype that comes with being even the third or fourth best player on a great team.
Yeah.
Do you think he can maybe boost his status a little bit by having a strong tournament?
Oh, absolutely. I think so. There's going to be a lot more eyes on him. And I do think that, like, for Canadian players, being included on any Team Canada does immediately bump you up, I think, in status. I think it's part of the reason that Giroux never got the amount of respect that he deserved, is because Hockey Canada always passed him over whenever they were putting together their teams for international tournaments. So I think if he has a good showing, because I do think that he's not a guy that a lot of, like, broader hockey fans think of when they think of, like, really good players in the NHL. Like, I would imagine if you asked casual fans of other teams, they would think of him as, like, a C-tier player. And I think he's clearly, like, a B-tier player, like, for sure. So I think that if he's able to really show up for this tournament, and I mean, like, he's appears to be on the fourth line, power play too. So he's not going to be, front and center. But if he can put on a little bit of a show, I do think it's going to raise his stock quite a bit around the league.
I think it could. I really do. And I think too, one of the things that probably hurts him in terms of his national standing, and by national, I'm talking the US and Canada, the entire continent of North America, let's say, is that I feel like Flyers fans underrate him too.
Of course.
And because he doesn't get the boost of all of Philadelphia championing him, that hurts him, because other fan bases look at it and say, well, if his own fans don't think he's all that great, then why should I? Like, I remember going back to last summer, I had people yelling at me in my mentions about he's a 60-point player. How can you give people in this chat saying, how can you give a 60-point player $9 million? And my point was, well, if you look at his point per game pace, he's not really a 60-point player. He's more like a 75, 80. And if you account for the fact that he's on a historically bad power play and a team that doesn't have much in the way of high-end talent, probably better than that. Point being is that I think even Philadelphia underrates this guy. This year, I think, is going a long way towards getting Flyers fans, skeptics to believe in him more. Not as a top of the lineup, best player on a cup contender, but as a guy who's very clearly that second tier down, where if he's your, second, third, fourth best forward, that's fine.
You're doing pretty good.
You're doing pretty good. I wonder if, I think Flyers fans have largely been convinced of Konecny's viability as that second tier, like lowercase s star.
Yeah.
But I do wonder if he goes out there and has an agitating tournament where he's noticeable, he's yapping, he's creating scoring chances, he has a few nice passes, maybe he gets a shorthanded goal, given that he's probably going to play on the penalty kill. I wonder if that gets him more recognized in overall hockey circles.
It would be shocking to me if it didn't. I mean, this is like, we do it with like 16-year-olds we've never heard of before. Like, if they have a good tournament in juniors, all of a sudden we're like, wow, this is the best prospect I've ever seen in my life. Now I know everything about him. But I do think that it's an interesting point. Flyers fans really do have an extremely bad habit of underrating our good players and overrating our bad players and prospects. Like, we gotta like look inward a little bit with the way that we treat our team, because like Travis Konecny is really good and he's been really good for quite some time. And so, like, I don't know, we should hype up our boys. You know what I mean? Like, we're fans. Like, that's what we're supposed to do. And we don't do a very good job of it. But I would like to see him put on like a full-on Travis Konecny show and really, take off the ear cuffs, you nerd. Like a full-on Travis Konecny and really give us a show. And I do think that at the very least, it'll get people noticing him a little bit more than he gets noticed now.
I think probably part of it too is just the generalized dissatisfaction of the fan base with regards to the Flyers. Because I think back to, let's say, from 2011 through, say, 2014, 2015-ish, Flyers fans constantly were advocating on behalf of Claude Giroux. It was, he's so underrated. This is ridiculous that he's not getting on, the Canadian team, going to the Olympics. And I remember the vitriol that Flyers fans directed at Team Canada and at anyone who doubted Claude Giroux. It didn't really start to change until like around 2016 when fans just got real frustrated. And then it became, Claude Giroux still had his diehard fans, his ride or dies. But there became a much more vocal contingent of people who just decided that he stunk. And he wasn't a good leader. And I just feel like that's kind of continued over to this part of the 2020s with now Konecny, where not no one, I don't want to paint the entire fan base with this brush, but there are a lot of people who just don't want to get excited about anybody on the Flyers because they're just not excited about the Flyers collectively. And it's kind of, it almost feels to me that there's a belief that we're not going to start pumping you guys up individually until you start making us happy as fans collectively. I wonder if that might be playing into
you're probably right.
The relative lukewarm sense I get from fans about Konecny, even though objectively speaking, he has taken the leap over the last few years and especially this year into being a clear-cut, point per game, 30-goal guy who could be a first liner on a cup contender type team. Not the first liner, but a first liner.
Yeah, you're right. People be grumpy.
People be quite grumpy.
They do.
They do be grumpy. But if you're going to be grumpy, I think there's another guy who you can be grumpy about.
Oh?
And that is Travis Sanheim, given the fact that he is not playing.
Yeah, it stinks.
In game one. So they ran the defense pairs early in the tournament practice schedule. It was earlier this week. And Sanheim was not in a pair. Seemed to bode poorly for his chance of being in the opening game lineup. And we got confirmation today that he is indeed a scratch.
The Eric Johnsification.
The Eric Johnsification of Travis Sanheim. Is he going to start reading Inner Excellence in videos?
I hope that he does.
I know they have him doing what is essentially like a tournament diary.
Oh, really?
For NHL.com.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. So, but I think they got him to do that before they realized that he might be a healthy scratch. I don't think that was connected.
No.
But it does appear that at least to start the tournament, that Travis Sanheim is not going to be playing in these games for Team Canada. Perhaps that changes for game 2. But for game 1, he's not in the lineup. They're going with the Devon Toews, Cale Makar first pair, which makes sense. That's just taking the pair from Colorado. We got Shea Theodore, Drew Doughty. Doughty was a late replacement for Alex Pietrangelo. And then you have Josh Morrissey and Colton Parayko. Is it fair that Travis Sanheim is not starting at least for game 1 of this tournament for Team Canada?
So, as someone who does not watch a lot of Western Conference hockey on account of being a sleepyhead, I wonder, like, objectively, is Drew Doughty having a better season than Travis Sanheim is having this year? Or is Drew Doughty, so he's playing and Travis Sanheim is not?
It's an interesting question because Doughty missed so much of the season.
Yeah.
He had that surgery, so he missed the bulk of, I think he missed basically the entirety of the first half of the season. He's only recently come back, which is probably part of the reason why he didn't make the roster to begin with.
Right.
Because again, he's Drew Doughty. Now, my understanding is he's played well since he's been back, but he doesn't have the sample size this season that Sanheim has. That said, Drew Doughty also has a much larger sample size of overall excellence than Travis Sanheim does, just talking about their respective careers. So I get Doughty. I do. To me, the guy that jumps out at me as like, really is Colton Parayko.
Yeah.
Now, I get that Parayko is a natural right-handed shot. So if you want to have the balance of the pairs, I get it. That said, Travis Sanheim has succeeded as a right side defenseman for the last couple seasons. He's done quite well in that role. And I think the general thought going into the tournament was it was going to be Morrissey Sanheim, was that they were going to be the third pair. Now Parayko is in. And you do have to wonder if the influence of Doug Armstrong, Parayko's general manager, is playing a role here in Parayko getting to play.
Almost certainly.
I do wonder. I know he's not the coach, but he is the GM. And I do wonder if that plays into Parayko getting the first shot as opposed to being the scratch for the first game.
Do you expect that Sanheim will get in at all?
I would have to believe that they're going to get him in at least a game. Now, maybe if Canada goes out there against Sweden and wins 6-0, maybe you get the classic coach idea of, can't change the lineups after a big win. The reason why I think he's going to get in at some point is because I do think, especially in the early part of this tournament, I mean, I think everybody's kind of viewing Finland. Maybe they'll surprise, but everybody's viewing Finland as the team that, well, they're probably going to be fourth.
Yeah.
I think Canada and the U.S. and Sweden, to a lesser extent, are going to be using this tournament as a way to make decisions on bubble guys for whether they are preferred options for the Olympics next year. And it seems counterintuitive that you will put a guy like Sanheim on your roster, who is clearly a bubble guy. He was a guy who, going into the season, I don't think anybody really thought he had a shot. Then he played real well for the first couple months of the year. And then he got on Team Canada's radar and made the team as kind of one of those last picks. To me, it seems counterintuitive to put him on the roster and then never get an actual look at him.
That's true.
In games. Like, you want to see if this guy could be an option for you for the Olympics. So I think that's where I'm at, is that I don't know why you would put him on your roster just to bench him. At the very least, you want to see him for one game to see if he could be a guy that maybe you want to make sure he's on your roster in the Olympics. Or the flip side, make sure you don't want him on your roster in the Olympics for next year.
I'm wondering, because like, I feel like, so I'm sure, I don't know if you guys talked about it. I've been out of town, but like, Canada has this problem with goaltending. Like, Canada isn't making goalies anymore.
This is true.
And so the best they've got is Jordan Binnington, which Jordan Binnington, I feel like, is one of those goalies where it's like he's either on or he is off.
That's true. Yeah.
And I'm wondering, like, if he is off Jordan Binnington, like, is the defense going to be enough to make up for it? And if they're not, is that how Travis Sanheim gets his way into a game? Because the whole back end's going to look terrible if Binnington's giving up a bunch of goals. Yeah. Which I think is not, I mean, like, I know it's easy to just think like, oh, it's Team Canada. They're obviously going to be at least the second best team in this tournament. But if their goaltending is trash, we've talked about it a million times. It's just goaltending. So if they're
always has been.
Right, exactly. If Binnington's trash, like, Canada's going to have a problem and they're going to have to figure out how to solve it. And it's just, I'm interested to see how this part of it plays out.
Yeah, and I will definitely say that I think Sanheim is a better offensive defenseman than Parayko. Parayko is probably a better defensive defenseman. He's bigger. He's just more sound in his own zone. His analytics defensively are strong. Sanheim is a more well-rounded guy. And maybe if Canada decides, well, we ain't going to be winning 2-1 games in this tournament, we're going to have to win 7-5 because our goalies can't stop a beach ball. Yeah. Maybe you have to put in the guy
That's a good point.
who brings more offensive ability. But again, we'll see how the tournament plays out. But before we go into further things in the tournament and also the top 20 PHLY Flyers prospects list, I want to talk to you a little bit about our partners. So to kick it off, if you have been following John Marks all these years, you know all about Glatt Hair Restoration, and it is now part of the Morgenstern Center. Glatt Hair Restoration is under the direction of renowned plastic surgeon Dr. Ken Morgenstern. Doctors Glatt and Morgenstern shared a remarkable bond that spanned many years as colleagues and friends, from collaborating on critical research studies to working together in the operating room. Now that is part of the Morgenstern Center, still the same peerless approach to care, the same expert team, the same unmatched Glatt system, same state-of-the-art location, same stellar result under the direction of Dr. Morgenstern, a highly respected plastic surgeon. And each member of that exceptionally trained team brings 30-plus years of industry experience. Hair restoration, that's all that they do. Each patient receives a complimentary one-on-one consultation to pinpoint the best course of treatment, and then caring patient advocates work with you from the first phone call to the last follow-up visit. They understand that this decision can be emotional and challenging, and they're here to help make your experience simple and stress-free, because Glatt Hair is not just about restoration, Kelly Hinkle. It is about innovation.
You got that straight.
Their breakthrough treatments really do dramatically change lives. So change your hair, change your life. Bald is now optional. And if you want to improve how you look and how you feel about yourself, Glatt Hair has the right treatment for you. Regain your confidence. Visit glatthairmctr.com or call 610-980-4000 to get started. And I also want to tell you about another longtime partner actually of the PHLY Flyers podcast, specifically TrueMark Financial Credit Union. So did all that holiday shopping leave you with a credit card balance weighing you down? Maybe you dropped big money on Eagles playoff tickets. Maybe you even dropped a ton of money going to New Orleans to see the Eagles blow out the Kansas City Chiefs just this past weekend. Well, think about this. What if you could pay off that balance just a bit faster and with zero interest until 2026? Well, our friends at TrueMark Financial, they're offering zero interest on balance transfers for 12 months. So all your payments can go towards reducing your balance, not just covering interest. Here's the play. Transfer your existing balance from another institution to a TrueMark Financial Visa credit card and take advantage of this amazing offer. But hurry, you have to apply by February 28th, 2025. It's just in a few weeks. Whether you're interested in earning rewards, cash back, or simply prefer a low rate for everyday purchases, with TrueMark Financial, you can choose the credit card that best fits your financial needs. So visit TrueMark.com/compare for full details and to apply today. TrueMark Financial, federally insured by NCUA, an equal opportunity lender. Terms and conditions apply. All loans subject to approval. 3% balance transfer fee applies. Standard rates apply after the promotional rate. Kelly.
Yes.
We are back.
We did it.
We did it.
It was great ad reads, by the way.
Well, thank you. I very much appreciate it. So before we move to the top 20 prospects list, I want to ask you one more question about Travis Sanheim, and then I want to ask you your thoughts on who's going to win this tournament. But going back to Sanheim for a second.
Yep.
He got off to, I would say, so beginning of the season, maybe a little bit of a slowest start. Then Cam York gets injured. Sanheim for about a month and a half, maybe even 2 months, is playing great hockey, maybe the best hockey of his career. Probably since about January, I wouldn't say he's been bad, but I would say he's been okay.
Yeah.
Hasn't been as consistently impactful. The offense has dropped off a bit in terms of raw scoring. Do you think that played a role in him dropping out of the projected 6-man lineup, or do you think this is all Hockey Canada politics?
I mean, you have to think that if he had been like lighting it up over the past month, they would have immediately put him in. I mean, it's probably a little bit of both in the sense that like Sanheim gave them an easy reason to go with like what their gut instinct 6 best defensemen are.
It's fair.
And if he had been killing it like he was earlier in the season, he probably would have made them think a little bit more about what they were going to do. And so, yeah, I mean, yeah, you have to think that it had something to do with it.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of with you there, where they probably were leaning towards Parayko. If that was the decision, maybe it came down to Morrissey and Sanheim. Maybe it came down to Doughty and Sanheim. But Parayko, to me, is the guy I look at and I say, Sanheim is probably a better all-around defenseman at this stage of their respective careers. So why is Parayko in? Maybe the handedness played a role, but I do have to think that the Doug Armstrong factor, St. Louis Blues general manager,
makes too much
putting
sense.
the St. Louis Blue guy on the, not only on the team, but also in the starting lineup for that first game. Also, Sanheim is obviously not small, but Parayko is bigger. He's 6'6".
You know, Hockey Canada loves a big boy.
They love their big boys. They do.
Yeah.
So I think it's a fair theory that maybe Sanheim's, I don't want to overstate it. I don't think he's playing poorly. I just don't think he's playing as well as he was playing in the lead up to the decision.
Yes,
because they made the decision in like mid-December. That was Sanheim playing his best hockey of the season.
Yes.
Now he's not playing his best hockey, and maybe that just gives them the ability to make the decision they probably always wanted to make in the first place.
I think so.
Kelly, before we move on to the top 20 prospects list, who do you think wins this tournament?
I'm going to go crazy, and I'm going to say Sweden.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm going to say Sweden does it on the back of goaltending. Yeah.
All right.
I'm gonna get weird. Why
Okay.
not? It'll probably be USA.
I think I'm going to go USA.
Yeah.
I'm feeling good about this. Not having Quinn Hughes hurts them a lot.
It does.
Because he is not just maybe the best defenseman in hockey. He's one of the best players in hockey
real
right
good.
now. Not having him, it hurts. But having Connor Hellebuck in goal.
He's real good.
Who To me, and I know Shesterkin hasn't had as good of a season this year. He's been up and down. But to me, Shesterkin's the only goalie who I look at raw talent-wise, and I say he is on Hellebuck's level. Shesterkin is not in this tournament. Obviously, he's a Russian. He's also banged up. So even if Russia was in this tournament, he might not be in it. To me, Hellebuck is the clear-cut best goalie in this tournament. And in a short tournament, goaltending can basically win you the whole thing.
100%.
And I think the U.S. also has a really good roster in front of him as well. So I'm going to go to the U.S., but it will be, let me put it this way. There have been years where when the U.S. is underwhelmed in these best-on-best tournaments, I'm kind of like, yeah, whatever. You know, Canada was obviously the best team. It doesn't really matter that they got, you know, they didn't get a medal versus getting the bronze. Who cares? If they flop in this tournament, I will be disappointed because I think they are good enough to not dominate. But I think they're good enough to win, absolutely. And if they end up getting the bronze or finish fourth, I will be severely
Fourth
disappointed.
would be shocking. I will say I don't think Canada is going to win. Like, if I was putting dollars on this, I would bet the money that Canada's not going to win this tournament.
Okay. You know what would be amazing?
What's that?
If your Sweden pick comes about because Sam Ersson somehow makes his way up the depth chart and
he saves the country.
Stars for the 3 crowns.
Yes. Wouldn't that be fun?
It would be a lot of fun.
It would be a lot of fun. It's not going to happen, but I would like it.
It would be enjoyable as a Flyers fan. Certainly would. And this is a very Bill Matz thing to say. I'm trying to channel Bill a little bit. Certainly would up his trade value.
Ooh, look at that.
Just saying. Because while the Flyers remain very high on Sam Ersson, John Tortorella loves Sam Ersson. They think he can be a key part of their goaltending future. There are other goalie prospects, youngsters coming via the pipeline. And we had quite a few of them in our top 20 prospects article, which came out this morning.
Fascinated by this list, by the way.
On allphly.com. As always, I did it with Alexander Appleyard. We both make our respective lists. We rank our top 25. I wouldn't say favorite, but how we rank the Flyers prospects. Then we combine the list, come up with the top 20. It's for diehards only. So sign up to become a diehard, read that article. Alex and I share the write-ups. And then over the next 2 days, we will have my interview series with Brent Flair. I do this twice a year after each of the prospect lists. And we'll be having more information directly from Flair, who manages the draft and is involved with these prospects even after the draft. So he's an authority on these guys. Be getting that starting tomorrow. We'll start out with the forwards and then do the defensemen and goalies on Friday. But moving to the list. Obviously, we're not going to give you the entire list. We're not going to read all of the details because we want you to subscribe and become a diehard member. But we certainly give away some of it. And the number one is that the new number one prospect, because Matvei Michkov has graduated. He's no longer a prospect. He's been the number one prospect since we started this at allphly.com. This is something I did at The Athletic before. But since PHLY got its start, Matvei Michkov has been the number one prospect. He no longer is, because he is no longer, he is Calder eligible. Basically, the way we do it is once a player, if he stopped playing, would no longer be Calder eligible for the next season, then he's no longer eligible for the list. So he's off. And Jet Luchenko is our new number one prospect.
With a bullet, in my opinion.
With a bullet.
Yeah.
But of course, because Flyers fans are Flyers fans, they cannot just be happy about this.
No.
They have to look at another list that came out earlier this week by my former colleague, Scott Wheeler of The Athletic, who ranked, I think it was the top 100 prospects in the NHL. And he ranked Zeev Buyum the second best prospect in hockey. And that is all I've been seeing, both in our Discord and on social media, is people saying, well, should have taken Zeev. I will acknowledge I agree with them. Zeev Buyum was my number 3 prospect in last year's draft.
Don't feed them, Charles.
But
they turn into bigger trolls.
However, I do think that the frustration, the lingering frustration about trading down, not taking Buyum, and ended up getting Jet Luchenko, it should not take away from the excitement about Jet Luchenko. I think Jet Luchenko is a legitimately exciting prospect. And I think he is a worthy number one, even if, personally, I would have rather they have taken Buyum.
Here's the thing, though. Let's say we're talking to 5 years in the future, Charlie.
Okay.
Future Charlie is here. We're talking to him. If at that point, Jet Luchenko is like like the sickest 2C in the league, like one of the best second line centers in the league.
Okay.
Do you give a single crap about Zeev Buium at that point?
I mean, it depends on how good Zeev Buium ends up being. Because here's the comparison I'll make, and this is a comparison that has popped in my head quite a lot since the draft, but especially over the last few days, because I've seen the back and forth online, and I also got to see the Eagles win a Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
I compare it to Brandon Graham and Earl Thomas. So the year that draft happened, we're talking like over a decade ago at this point, the fans wanted Earl Thomas. I wanted Earl Thomas. They needed a safety, the long-term replacement, the guy who's going to be the next Dawkins, and he was a stud. They took Brandon Graham instead. And for years, every time Brandon Graham did anything, it was, well, he's not Earl Thomas, because Earl Thomas was like the leader of the Legion of Boom for the Seattle Seahawks. He was this great player, one of the best, if not the best safety in the league. Fans did not forgive Brandon Graham for not being Earl Thomas until Brandon Graham forced the fumble that won the Eagles their first Super Bowl in franchise history. So,
learn a lesson.
So here's the thing. I don't think fans are going to get over this if Jet Luchenko is just a really good 2C, if Zeev Buium becomes a number one top pair super stud defenseman. I don't think they're going to get over it. Even if Luchenko proves to be a really good player, I think you're still going to hear it until Jet Luchenko scores the game-winning goal in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final in 2032.
I'm going to preemptively tell you that that's dumb. So if you end up being one of those people, that's stupid. So before we dig deeper into this list, I know I ask you this every year, but it's very interesting to me personally. By what metrics do you determine your top prospects? Like, are you just looking at numbers? Is it vibes? Are you thinking about how they'll affect the team in the future? Like, what goes into it for you?
So I would say that the numbers play a big role, to be sure.
Mm-hmm.
But also I am going by my own personal firsthand observations.
Okay.
I trust that Alex has watched more of these guys during their seasons.
Right.
Because I just don't have the time to watch Guelph, to watch, games over in Sweden, games over in Russia. I don't.
Right.
Once in a while I may catch bits and pieces. I may be able to watch a YouTube video here and
highlights
there.
and stuff.
But I trust that Alex is watching these guys more firsthand. But what I am drawing upon is what I've seen from them at development camps, at training camp, in practices, when I am watching these guys up close, firsthand. And I do put in the article that we can have this debate about Jet Luchenko's upside, about whether he can score enough to be a top 6 center, whether he's just going to be a really good third line center, a really good middle 6 center. You can have that debate, and that's fine. But to me, the exciting part about Luchenko is that I'm not sure there are many prospects in the NHL right now that have that as high of a floor as Luchenko has, because we already know for basically a fact that at the very least he is going to be a quality bottom 6 NHL center. And the reason why we know that is because we actually watched it with our own 2 eyes when he was a month past turning 18. And if he's already that at a young 18, he's at the very least going to be a good 3C when he is in his prime. And I think there's a very good chance he's going to be better than that, because I expect, generally speaking, guys get better. 18-year-olds get better.
I was going to say,
usually do.
One would assume that like a barely 18-year-old playing for the first time in the NHL that's probably not going to be the peak. Mm-hmm. One assumes he would get a little bit better with some more time. Yeah.
But I think it's exciting to me because he's a very high floor player, and you can debate his ceiling, but at the very least, his floor is very high, and everything after that is, hey, if he's a great 2C, that's a solid pick. Yeah. Is it a Zeev Buium pick? Maybe not, but we don't know what Zeev Buium is going to be either. I really like Scott Wheeler, but just because Scott Wheeler ranks in number 2 does not mean that Zeev Buium is guaranteed to be a number 1 defenseman.
No.
He's been very good since being drafted. He was very good before he was drafted. That's why I liked him as much as I did. But I'm not yet ready. I think that's kind of where I'm at, is I'm not yet ready to call this in favor of Zeev Buium yet.
Okay.
That
I think that's fair.
Yes.
At the very least, it's fair.
I like Zeev Buium a lot. if I was running the Flyers draft last year, I would have taken him over Jet Luchenko. I would have made that pick. But we don't yet know what either of these guys are going to be. And if anything, we have more certainty about Jet Luchenko's floor, that he is at the very least going to be a decent enough NHL player, than we do about Zeev Buium. Because with Zeev Buium, we haven't seen it. Exactly. We've at least seen Jet Luchenko make an NHL roster and then not look out of place on that NHL roster for a few games at the start of the year.
It's very easy, I think, with these prospects and the way that they get ranked, particularly these national guys that do these rankings constantly. It's just potential. So, like, you are essentially ranking what you are imagining Zeev Buium is going to be, because there's no evidence, because it hasn't happened yet. Whereas, like, if you're Scott Wheeler and you're thinking to yourself, I saw Jet Luchenko in the NHL, he looked all right. Okay, so even if you're telling yourself that you're not considering that, it's in your brain. You're thinking about it. But Zeev Buium, he could be a boat. We don't know what he is going to be. So I think that these I wish people didn't take these rankings as like dogma as much as they do.
I would agree with that. And this is coming from someone who very much respects Scott Wheeler and Corey Proman, who also does lists like this.
Noted Flyers hater.
Noted Flyers hater, Corey Proman.
Yeah.
But I do think that people can look at these lists and say, well, Flyers made a bad pick because Scott Wheeler ranked Buium second and ranked Luchenko in like the 60s. It was pretty low.
We don't know.
I guess we'll see.
We will see.
Right now, it is looking like Buium would have been a better pick, but we'll see. We don't know for sure. Right now, I do believe, though, Jet Luchenko, because of his combination of high floor and plausibly high ceiling, I don't think I see a franchise-changing 1C in Jet Luchenko, but I very much see a plausible path where he gets to be a play-driving 60 to 70 point a year 2C who kills it by two-way metrics and also scores a lot. I could certainly see that.
Because guess what the Flyers don't have right now? That.
One of those.
No. So we could use one of those.
Yeah, sure could. You know what the Flyers could also use?
What's that, Charlie?
You know what I should probably do? I should probably.
I thought that was a segue.
No, because that wasn't a segue. That was a segue into the next player I want to talk about. But before we get into that player, I should turn it over to our sponsors. And our first sponsor is one that you know very, very well. Kelly, the Flyers are never ordinary.
You got that straight.
That Super Bowl on Sunday was the furthest thing from ordinary.
That was a wild
game. It was the perfect thing for our partners at Bet365, because whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Bet365 has 90 million users worldwide, live streams, 780,000 events each year. Bet365 has pioneered live in-game betting, and today, Bet365 offers the widest range of games and markets available for live in-game betting across 78 sports. Right now the NHL isn't playing, but the NHL will get going soon enough. And when it gets back going, Bet365 has an NHL early payout offer. And with the Bet365 early payout offer, you're a winner if your team gains a 3-goal lead with an instant payout on straight bets and parlay selections marked as winners. Download the app and use code PHLY365 when you sign up. And breaking news from Bet365. New customers now get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5, win or lose. So sign up, use the code PHLY365, deposit $10, and place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets. If your bet wins or loses, bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and physically located in PA. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Thank you, Bet365. But I also want to tell you about Golden Nugget Jewelers. So for the past 30 years, Golden Nugget Jewelers has operated out of the very same location in the heart of Philadelphia. Customers from across Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and even Baltimore and New York City come to Golden Nugget Jewelers to find that perfect engagement ring or wedding band. Their staff is highly trained, dedicated to providing a personalized shopping experience. And Valentine's Day is indeed almost here. It's just a few days away. So a vast selection of engagement rings and wedding bands, along with high-end watches, fashion jewelry, and sparkling diamond necklaces, bracelets, earrings, and more are available. Receive a final cleaning and written appraisal with every engagement ring purchase. Golden Nugget Jewelers has been a family-owned and operated business since 1987, right there on Chestnut and 8th in downtown Philadelphia. Because you deserve an expert and the best price, Golden Nugget Jewelers, where Philly gets engaged. Visit goldennuggetjewelry.com today to learn more. Now, Kelly,
Yes.
we can talk about another guy who comes with high expectations. And he comes with increased stock this year.
He's definitely a boat.
Definitely a boat.
100.
You heard it here from Kelly Hinkle.
A yacht.
That the player who was ranked 7th for us back in September and is now ranked 2nd on our PHLY top 20
Quite a
prospects
rise.
list, Egor Zavragin.
Our savior.
He is 19 years old, and he is already wouldn't quite call him the starter. He had a stretch where he was the starter, both for Sochi, and then once he got the call up, essentially, he was on loan with Sochi, played extremely well for them. Sochi is a lower tier KHL team, and then got the call up to SKA St. Petersburg, Michkov's old team, played very well for a while, got banged up for about a month. Since then, he hasn't been able to fully regain his starting role, but he's playing regularly. And his overall numbers in the KHL, particularly for a 19-year-old, fantastic. 30 games played, .916 save percentage, 2.59 goals against average. Number one, I do want to make it clear that the KHL, like a .916 save percentage is not a .916 save percentage in the NHL.
Right.
The best goalies in the KHL have significantly higher numbers than Zavragin does. However, it's also very true that 19-year-olds almost never have primary major roles on a KHL team, especially on a KHL team that is one of the premier teams. Now, SKA St. Petersburg hasn't quite lived up to their talent level, but they are one of the big spending. They are one of the teams that is run by the money guys. That's what they are. They are one of the prestige teams in the KHL. And Egor Zavragin has already earned his way into their goaltending mix at age 19. That is extremely impressive and bodes very well for his potential future.
There's entirely too much of my future well-being tied up in Russian teenagers.
Fair enough.
I gotta do some examination. But
Does Michkov count as a teenager anymore?
I guess technically
He's
not.
20.
Yeah.
Dragon is still a teenager.
Yeah.
But Michkov was a
Russian
teenager.
children, I'll
Russian
say.
children. The youths.
Do you worry that he's not going to come over here? I worry they're not going to let him leave. He's too good.
It's an interesting question because I know Montreal fans are dealing with this with Demidov.
I mean, that one brings me joy.
They're getting very
Makes me laugh
scared
a lot.
that he's going to be strong-armed into re-upping and staying because he's clearly ready. He's playing very, very well in the KHL for the same team, I believe. They're worried that, the Russians are going to find a way to convince him, whether, via legitimate or illegitimate means,
Convince
to stay.
Yes.
Montreal fans, I'm not going to lie, it is a little amusing to see them in panic
Oh,
mode
it's
because
great.
we dealt with this for the last 2 years with Michkov, and
You
they
know
kind
who
of
is
laughed
here?
at us.
Matvei Michkov.
Matvei Michkov is here.
Michkov's here.
It's an interesting question, though, about
Sorry.
Zavragin. So his contract situation right now is he signed a 3-year deal last summer with SKA St. Petersburg. This is year 1. So he has 2 more years left. In theory, once that contract is up, he could come over. Because right now he is just an okay KHL goalie. What's impressive about him is that he's an okay
He's so young.
KHL goalie at age 19.
Right.
If he continues to improve, which I think there's a very good chance he will, he has all the tools. He has size. He has athleticism. He seems to have the work ethic based on everyone I've talked to. If he takes the level up, it seems possible, if not likely. And by year 3, he is .930 save percentage, one of the best goalies in the KHL on a team that is run by very powerful people in Russia. Is it possible that they try to strong arm him into signing another contract? Yeah, that's a legitimate worry.
Yeah.
But I will say that it's kind of one of those things where, let's worry about that when we have to.
That's fair. Yeah.
Because you think about it, this was the same team that did let Matvei Michkov out of his contract.
But
early.
didn't the coach hate him?
That's true. But you never know. Maybe it could end up being a similar situation.
Egor Zavragin to make the coach mad. He can work on it.
He could. Goalies are often strange. But look at it this way. The Flyers have navigated this situation with this same team once before. They've talked to the people. They know
Yeah.
the people at the top of this organization. That makes me feel better.
That's
about it.
true. Yeah, that's a
Because
good point.
At the very least, they've gone through this before, and they know who the right people to talk to are. Maybe they know the right people
palms to grease.
to grease.
Yeah,
maybe.
exactly.
So this ain't their first rodeo.
It's a very fair point.
That seems like a positive. I am under the impression, though, that they're not going to rush him out of this contract. That this is
They're not going to rush him?
This is not. We're not going to rush him.
Oh,
there we go.
Sorry.
That this is not a situation where he's going to get out of it this summer, shockingly, or he's even going to get out of it next summer, shockingly. I think they're going to let this contract go.
Yeah.
I think they're going to let it roll, and their hope is going to be that they're going to, number one, have a better understanding of their own internal goalie situation in 2 seasons, and number two, he's going to be a better goalie in 2 years, and maybe they can have a situation where he comes over and just jumps right into the starting role because he's already that good. That would be the ideal.
That would be nice.
That would be the solution, and then, hey, maybe Sam Ersson can be still around, can be a very good backup goalie.
Carson.
Maybe Carson Bjarnason.
Yeah.
Carson Bjarnason's interesting. He ranked 9th in our list. He actually was one of the risers. We had him 13th in our list in September.
Another
was
one
up to
moving
9th in this list. He's another interesting guy. We can go into the next goalie on the list. I ranked him much higher because I really liked what I saw from him in camp, in the rookie games, even in preseason.
He looked great in the rookie games.
That was the first time I've seen the Carson Bjarnason that the Flyers see, because they've been saying from the jump that this is a guy you cannot judge based on his junior numbers because Brandon is a mess defensively. And I was willing to accept that. Then I saw him in development camps and was severely unimpressed. He was real bad in development camp last summer. Like worse than the guys they gave camp invites to. It was rough. And I came away from that camp thinking, like, I'll keep ranking him on these lists because the Flyers believe in him and because I will fully acknowledge that, like, Kim Dillabaugh knows a heck of a lot more goaltending than I ever will, and he seems to think he's going to be good.
Right.
But I'm skeptical. Then I saw him in rookie camp, in main camp, in preseason games. I'm like, all right, I get it. I see why you like this guy. He's huge. He's athletic. He plays the position well. He seems to read plays very well. He's exciting. Now, he's not to me as exciting as Zavragin because Zavragin is doing this in a pro league, probably the second best pro league in hockey. At age 19, he's younger than Bjarnason as well. But I am higher on Bjarnason, much higher on him than I was this time last year, to be sure.
Yeah, I was actually really surprised in those rookie games at how good he looked because I didn't expect that he was going to be anything.
Okay.
I kind of just expected that he was going to be like one of those, like, you know, ABC always be drafting goalies.
Right.
And he was just going to be one of the ones that they tried on. And he's, you know, maybe he's an AHL goalie. Like maybe he's like Alex Lyon at best. But like you said, he did seem to take a major jump between last season and this season. And he was, did he play in juniors? World Juniors?
So he made Team Canada.
Yeah.
But he did not play.
Okay.
He was their third goalie.
Okay.
I'm sure that was a bummer to him.
Probably.
Because he played very well. My understanding, and I watch very little of this, but my understanding is that he kind of made the, if you want to call it the leap, he played very well in the World Junior Summer Showcase.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking about.
Which happened before rookie camp and main camp for the Flyers. But it seems like he kind of carried that momentum over into main camp. And then he also got off to a very good start with Brandon. That was sort of how he was able to earn his way onto the Canadian team. He, unfortunately, though, doesn't play. He's kind of their reserve goalie, didn't dress for, I think, a couple games and whatever. But it seems like something clicked for him this summer, and he's kind of taken a leap. And the Flyers very much believe that once they get their hands on him, once they get him out of Brandon, where they just feel like he's been facing like 2-on-0s and 3-on-1s all the time and slam dunk chances, once they get him out of there and their people can start working with him on a daily basis, they think they can turn him into something. Now, I don't know how quick that's going to happen. And that's where you start getting into where does he fit with Zavragin? Where does he fit with Ersson? You got Kolosov in there somewhere. We ranked Kolosov 7th. So we had 3 goalies in our top 10. So there are a lot of goalies in this mix. Which one is going to be the one who steps up and says, I'm the guy? No one's done it yet. Ersson's been the closest, but he hasn't come close to actually being like, well, we need to plan our goalie situation around Sam Harris. He's like, yeah, he looks like an NHL caliber goalie.
He feels like a stopgap at this point.
We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But they got guys coming. Kolosov's obviously already sort of here. Zavragin is a little ways away. Bjarnason's going to take some developmental time, but they have exciting goalies in the pipeline. So we're kind of running out of time, but I do want to talk about the list overall.
Okay.
Before we end the show. Because I think the general consensus is that the Flyers prospect pool isn't good, sucks, is bad. It seems like that is where fans are at.
I'm shocked
because
that they feel that way.
They no longer have that one guy.
Right.
Like when you had Michkov, it was like, well, yeah, they have Michkov. Michkov's going to be a stud. Now Michkov is an NHL player. He doesn't count anymore. So now it's, well, the prospect pool is bad. And then that brings you back to Bouillon, because then it becomes, well, if you have Bouillon, then it would be good. But they don't, so it's bad. I don't think it's bad, but I do think it does need a significant infusion of guys at the top, because I see the drop off.
It is a bit shallow, yes.
I see the drop off really hit around 10, 11. And not going to again give away the entire list. Read that on allphly.com.
Yeah.
But our 10th ranked prospect is Alex Chernik, who was a 4th round pick in 2023. High upside guy, really good skater, but has a lot of work to do. Needs to bulk up, needs to get better at playing under forechecking, under puck pressure. He's like 2, 3, 4 years away. And then you have Spencer Gill, who also high upside guy, could be a really, really good second pair defenseman potentially, but he is extremely skinny and needs a lot of work to put himself in position to be an NHL caliber defenseman. After 11, I don't know if I see anyone except for maybe like Ilya Paltov, who is a dice throw lottery pick type of guy where it's like, yeah, he's got tons of skill, but he probably won't be coming over until like 24. I don't know if I see guys after that 10-11 spot who I think have a chance of being top half of the lineup guys. You know, guys who could be second pair defensemen, top six forwards, starting caliber NHL goalies. And it's stopping at 10-11 is a little concerning because, look, you need bottom 6 guys, you need quality guys in that sense, but the Flyers need high-end talent. I just don't think they have enough of it in their pipeline right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone would argue that the Flyers are going to solve their high-end talent problem from this prospect pool. I think we all know that that's not happening. But there is a severe drop-off. All of you should go and read this list and argue with Charlie in the comments if you think that any of these people are actually good. There's a couple on there that I wanted to be good. But I'm not convinced that any of these dudes is going to be anything in the NHL.
Like, I think there are guys after 11 that I think are going to make it. Like, I think Cole Knuble has a real good chance to be a darn solid 4th line center. And I think Hunter McDonald, he's going to get his shot.
Oh, he's definitely going to get a chance.
Maybe he ends up being a really good physical third pair defenseman. And that's great. You need those guys, especially you need those guys on cheap contracts. Helge Grans has looked good in his chances, so in the NHL level. So, hey, maybe he's a third pair defenseman. But it's just I don't look at any of these guys and say they're going to be super impactful, that they're going to be someone who I look at and say they are impacting the long-term future of the Flyers. You can be a good player, you can be a quality NHL player, but not a guy who I say, like, man, if he's injured, they're in trouble.
No, this is just a lot of Mark Alts.
Yeah.
Just dudes.
A lot of guys who maybe could be good bottom lineup guys.
Who could be in the NHL, but like you could literally replace each and every one of these with another random NHL caliber guy and see no difference. Like there's no difference maker.
I think that's the key, yeah.
There's probably no difference maker after like, well, I guess you can go all the way to 10 and there's like at least potential. I think that's the thing. Like the reason why the guys down near the bottom are, and by the bottom I mean the bottom of the top 10, why they're there is because they have less likely to be good. But like Carson Bjarnason certainly could be. It's just that I think it's less likely than Egor Zavragin. Read the thing.
Also, we appreciate those of you watching on TV. Head over to allphly.com for more of the show. But going back to Bjarnason, like I like Bjarnason, and I think if he hits, he could be a starting NHL goalie. Just like I think if Zavragin hits, he could be a starting NHL goalie. I just think it's more likely that Zavragin's going to hit. I think he has a better chance of that success. Whereas if Jack Berglund hits, he'll be a fine third-line center. And again, you need fine third-line centers. That's great, but they're not changing the trajectory of the organization in the way that Bjarnason would. If Bjarnason hits, hey, and he's a 9-10 save percentage goalie, yeah, that changes the trajectory of the organization. He's not a superstar, but having that solid, rock solid number one of the, not Shesterkin Hellebuck tier, but like in that,
would kill for that, Charlie.
That'd be great. That could change the trajectory of the organization, but once you get past 10 or 11, I don't see any of those guys
just dudes
popping up.
Yeah.
And I think that's
agree.
what they have to address at this upcoming draft, where they have 3 first-round picks and 4 second-round picks.
Wonder how many they're going to make, Charlie.
I guess we will
We're going to find
see.
out.
So before we call it a
Super
day,
chats.
time to go to the Super Chats. Let's start out with Mellerman 4. 3 cheers for Charlie stepping up for Bill.
He always does so good.
Mellerman 4, thank you for the $2. Much appreciated. I tried my best. Next up, K-Red for Charlie's buttery smooth ad reads. Again, I'm nowhere near as good as Bill on that sense. I'm just trying to make it through.
Don't sell yourself short,
Just trying
Charles.
to make it through. Hopefully that went okay. And then we have another $2 from K-Red. Birds are world champs.
Hey,
Sunday
go Birds.
Flyers. You know what, Kelly?
Go Birds.
Go Birds. Go
I'm going to
Birds.
see you all on Broad Street on Friday.
Yes.
Come find me.
Come find Kelly.
I'll give you a big kiss on the lips. Not guaranteed.
Not guaranteed.
No.
Okay. Well, that is all the time we have today on.
Oh, wait, we got another one.
We got another one right
Friend
under
of
the
the
buzzer.
pod, JH.
JH, good job filling in for Bill. Great to see Kelly.
Thanks,
Thank
buddy.
you, JH. Much appreciated. Although, gotta say, you're a little bit of a cheapskate, only giving $1.99 versus
snap.
$2. You just didn't have that extra penny, did you, JH? Disappointing. In any case, we'll deal with that.
That was hilarious.
In any case, thank you for watching the PHLY Flyers podcast today. We will be back tomorrow. Hopefully, Bill will be feeling better. We shall see. But we will have a show tomorrow at 4 p.m. So watch out for that. Thanks again. We will see you tomorrow.
We all silly like the mayor.